Dr. Long, we are live now. We are on live.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, Good afternoon, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Today it's a very important session that we, as a part of ASEAN Sustainable Urbanization Forum, and for this session, it's specifically we discuss about the ASEAN thematic area on water waste sanitation. So for enhance the solid waste management system. So with that, I think we have a number of important experienced speaker and expert in the region that contribute to this important session. So I mean the session really try to provide insight, experience, knowledge, practice, and also provide the opportunity to interact among the stakeholder. I mean, particularly the speaker, to understand about this issue in depth and with the particular challenge that we are facing, the COVID-19 situation and the waste generating from the protecting gear and also from the medical waste, it become a key critical for our region now. So with me today we have the city representative from Lam Dong province, Vietnam, who can provide important message from the ground, where the city manage and how it will be the challenge for them to reflect. And then also with the other expert panelists that I will introduce one at a time. So I think the solid waste management is one of the main priority in ASEAN sustainable urbanization strategy, and have been some time about the implementation of that strategy. And this time really try to reflect how best we can manage this and implement this priority action, and with that we can find a new way or innovative way how we can continuously improve our management of this subject matter. With that, I just would like to invite Mr. Latin Luong, Manager Environmental Protection Brand of Lam Dong Province, to share some of experience from the city. So with that, it will be important to present about the current policy and practice of water, waste and sanitation, and the key challenge and progress. That is really important. Set the stone for us to understand the real issue from the city. So the floor is you, Mr. Latin Luong.
Thank you for your introduction. Good morning. A warm greeting to all of you from Dallas City. Before we get started, please allow me to introduce our participants from Dallas City. This is Mr. Latin Long, Manager of London Province EPH. And my name is Yang, Vice Dean of Department of Chemistry and Environment, Dallas University. Today, I'm pleased to give you the presentation on behalf of Mr. Long, and I am also his interpreter today. First of all, we would like to deliver our thanks to the organizer for inviting us to the forum and giving us a chance to share our city context. Wish the forum a great success and best wishes to all of you. Now, please let me start the presentation. Next slide, please. Next, please. Okay, thank you. To begin the presentation, I would like to give you some brief information about Dallas City. Dallas City, the capital of Lam Dong Province, covers an area of 394 kilometers square and has the population of 230,000 people as of 2019. Owing to its beautiful landscape and cool climate, Dallas City welcomes approximately 6 million tourists each year. Thus, tourism becomes the rising economic sector. It contributes largely to the process of urbanization of the city. Next, please. However, along with the economic development, the city faced some environmental problems, including solid waste issues. According to the Provincial Environmental Status Report, the generation of domestic solid waste is about 1.3 kilograms per person per day. This number is significantly higher than the national average of around 0.9 kilograms per person per day. As of June 2020, the domestic solid waste collection rate is 95% in urban area and 97% in rural area. The three main challenges in solid waste management are addressed as follows. The solid waste collection is difficult due to the hilly terrain, the scattered residential areas, and the large amount of tourists. And the next one, the classification of solid waste as salt is still limited currently in the city. Non-standardization of household solid waste classification does not facilitate solid waste collection, transportation, and treatment. And the last one, raising household awareness on environmental protection and solid waste classification is not efficient, attributed to the lack of qualified propagandists. Next, please. Therefore, the action is aimed to strengthen the capacity of domestic solid waste management by raising the rate of solid waste classification at source and improving the solid waste collection and transportation network. The action will include five main components. The first one, improving skill of propagation and training for environmental staff on solid waste classification at sources. Second, raising awareness on environmental protection and guiding on solid waste classification for household and tourists. Third, improving the solid waste collection and transportation network. Next, please. 4. Implementation of solid waste classification as households. To do this, first we will conduct a pilot model of household waste classification at 4 selected wards and communities. After then, based on the lesson learned from the pilot model, it will be replicated at the remaining wards and communities. Lastly, some political mechanism will be applied to support solid waste classification. Next, please. To accomplish the above-mentioned activity, we may need support from ASEAN and external partners. We need functional support and technical support, particularly on evaluation of existing waste management systems, and household engagement and the development of training material on solid waste classification and data collection and analysis. The project is estimated to cost about 2 billion Vietnam dong, so approximately 90,000 USD, and it will take place in 2.5 years. Next, please. During the implementation of the project, there might have several challenges. We might lack of support and cooperation from households. Households might not be enthusiastic short their but because it takes their time and bring them some troubles. They might just follow when we monitor and then return to their old habit. And we might also lack of the private sector participation. The potential returns for the private operator might not be sufficient to encourage their participation. And the lack of collaboration among the relevant stakeholders is another challenge. Solutions for improving the solid waste collection, transfer, and transportation system might not be supported by the company that is in charge for solid waste collection and transportation because they might not have their duty. Next, please. So to overcome these challenges, we propose to organize consultation meeting with the relevant stakeholder and communities before the project implementation in order to have their support and to provide the stakeholders and communities detailed information on the project activity and potential benefits, and to promote the role of social organizations, for example, women union, farmer union, veteran association, and youth union, in calling for community participation. Next, please. Finally, to ensure the success of the project, the clear and specific expectation results assessed as you can see on the slides. After the implementation of the project, 100% of households in all wards and communities will be trained on solid waste classifications. The domestic solid waste collection rate will reach 100% in both urban and rural areas, and at least 75% of urban households will properly classify their solid waste, and tourists will classify and dispose the garbage in the right place. In order to maintain the sustainable action in the future, we aim to incorporate the solid waste management target as an important requirement indicator into the city annual socio-economic development plan. So that is the outline of the proposed solid waste management action. Next, please. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention and hope to receive your advisory and feedback. Thank you very much.
Your good, excellent presentation, and it's not about the system that going on in the city, but importantly provide clear in terms of the challenge, the opportunity, and the way forward, how this can be further continuous. I mean, it's a well noted about the challenge you are facing, the lack of cooperation, involvement of the key player, including the local community. So it is a good insight for our session. Right now, I would like to invite the expert to share their view. I mean, we have a great honor today. We have Professor Gamutu, that is the senior professor in the Jeffries Center on Sustainable Development at Sunway University. I mean, he's have a lot of research and experience on the waste management, and he's the founder of President Malaysian Society of Waste Management and Environment. Currently, he's the chairman of the Organization for Climate Change of Malaysia. He's also he's a member of International Solid Waste Association as well. I mean, his contributes significant in terms of knowledge and for the general public, and particularly for the researcher and the young scholar. He published 21 book and also a 28 chapter in editorial book and so on. So, I mean, let welcome Professor Agamutu, and let him share his experience about the challenge and opportunity, and also any sort of way forward for waste management in our region. So the floor is your, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Wong Sok. Yeah, if you are talking about ASEAN in particular, I think the challenges are very, very huge, because most of the ASEAN countries are actually developing countries, and we have real challenges. And I think most of us are aware that about 70 to 80% at least the waste is going to the dump sites, and this is creating a lot of environmental pollution as well as water pollution and air pollution and so on. And I think the other issue with developing countries, or mostly in ASEAN nation, is that the collection, the waste collection is not so efficient in some of the countries. I can't say the same thing for Malaysia. Malaysia, of course, the waste collection is quite efficient. And the next thing is on the waste technology that we are using. I think our developing countries are still relying on landfill, but unfortunately, most of the landfills are actually dump sites. So this is another big issue that we are experiencing. So because of the either the lack of collection or the frequency of collection, what is happening is that frequently we have illegal burning and also illegal disposal of the waste into water bodies and so on, which is causing other issues. I think at this stage, probably I will stop and then I will go to the specific issues later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. So I think this is one of the most critical issue in our region. I think it's also happened at a different sort of level from the local or provincial or state. I think it's about the collection and also the waste leakages, whether we call illegal or legal, but it's just that happening around our region. With that, I think you just highlight this about the technology. It may be the potential solution that can help us in terms of segregation and also in terms of collection. So thank you, as is well known. So with that, Professor, you have any additional point to add, or I just would like to call for the next speaker?
I think at this stage I will pass to the next speaker because unless we are having some specific questions, then I can address that. In basically this is my introductory remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. With that, allow me to welcome our next speaker, who is also have a great experience, Swavati Singh Sambyal, who have been with the number of organization and action to work with this sort of circular economy waste management over 10 years in South Asia and Global South. So they have done the city scale implementation project in India and has worked in Zanzibar, in Tanzania, and also many other countries such as Ethiopia, Ghana, Namibia, and to bringing policy and implementation reform, pushing for integrated waste management approach. So I think it's a great privilege that she's with us today, so she can share about the waste management and also the way she worked with the UN Habitat since 2020 as well. So with that, we would like to welcome Swati Singh for sharing the experience, what maybe we can do better for waste collection, as well as embed the policy and practice to make it more robust for waste management in our region. So the floor to you, Swati.
Thank you, Bong, and my pleasure to be here. I think a few relevant inputs based on the presentation that was shared by the keynote. Number one, with most of our cities, we do lack evidence-based planning, which means data-centric solutions aren't looked into. So I think my number one input would be that to mitigate key challenges, one thing is that we need to make more data-enabled decisions in solid waste management and also as we move towards circular economy. Participative planning, I think, is a key approach to have multiple stakeholders on board. We always see that there are challenges wherein probably local partners or residents or various key actors in the waste value chain we don't get a buy-in from them in projects. So one is that we need to have a participatory planning approach, doing various stakeholders consultation to get a local buy-in, also to share various project highlights as we plan to do around circular economy. Also, I think in today's time when we are juggling with linear systems occupying more space, creating a lot of NIMBY syndrome. I think a focus should be more around decentralized systems, which not only support livelihoods but are also income generating. And I'm sure across South Asia, Southeast Asia, there are umpty examples of cities that have explored that. And my last cent is that bottom-up initiatives are mostly not taken into account when we talk about circular economy and social innovation. And circular economy, in my opinion, can be fully implemented if we also weave in bottom-up initiatives along with various top-down and technocentric initiatives. And only then, I think we can have a holistic approach towards projects that we set up on the ground around circular economy and solid waste management. So I think at this initial stage, these are my four inputs, and of course, I would like to add further during the session. Over to you, Wong Sok.
Thank you very much, Swati, for your insight. I think this is one of the most important part of success of management, solid waste, and so on. I think it's about the planning, and the planning, what you point out, it's straightforward importance about the people-centered approach where we can engage all the relevant people for participate and active engage as a part of a multi-stakeholder sort of engagement. And also the data information is really important to provide for a better planning and decision making. This is well noted. I think this the way allow us to advance further the circular economy to avoid the linear sort of business. Thank you very much. And with that, I think we will come back to you later on for a specific question. Right now, may I invite the next speaker, Mr. Handra Gupta, the project manager, Boda AIT, representative sanitation hub. He's quite experienced in the solid waste management and over 20 years. He is currently with the ASEAN Institute of Technology, and he is the one who established a training center of urban sanitation governance. His knowledge in developing a decision support system for wastewater, solid waste technology selection. I think with him today, I think we have a great opportunity to learn about the technology, how the technology and research and could contribute to this sort of solid waste management. So with that, we would like to welcome Mr. Handra Gupta. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fongsok. It's an interesting presentation from Dalat, especially knowing that they're going to implement a pilot project involving 4 wards and also the communities. One of my interests is always to work with the communities and hoping a great success for the beginning of the projects for Dalat City. One of my notes in the presentation is that the success factors, that is the 100% of household in all wards and communes will be trained on solid waste classification. And in my opinion, when we work on the solid waste management, especially at the community level, we have to find out also, we have to dig what are the goals of the community, whether collecting waste is actually the goals of the government, but what are the benefits also for the communities. And for example, we can show actually the conversion of food waste into urban resources. In my opinion, when we discuss with the communities, there are a lot of food waste that is scattered and which is left untreated, and this actually can be reused for energy and for other source as well. And another one is also conversion of waste into urban resources, like for example, I'm sure the trend now is collecting the plastic waste from domestic sources. There is one good example actually from Vietnam, where a role of private sectors source as well. And another one is also conversion of waste into urban resources, like for example, I'm sure the trend now is collecting the plastic waste from domestic sources. There is one good example actually from Vietnam, where the role of private sectors. Sorry, I got an echo. And another one is also conversion of waste to in Vietnam, especially in the city of New Thuan, there is a role of private sectors in collecting, and after collection of the waste, the company will then separate the waste, and they were able to separate the plastic, to recover the plastics, and then they sell it, and also recover the organic waste. Also, they sell it to the communities for, like for example, compost. And it seems that they're sustaining for after some 15 years of operation, and that might be a good example for city of Dalat. Thank you, Mr. Fongsak.
Thank you very much, Andra, for your insights about the way how we can make this sort of a cycle, circular economy sort of business, even starting from the local level and community level. I mean, looking at the food waste and also the waste to urban resource and so on. So, as the interest of time, may I invite the next speaker to share the view. Um, is Dr. Punsak Chan Champisi. I mean, he's quite, sorry, sorry, it's correct. Yeah. So, Punsak Champasi is quite experienced in relation to this solid waste management. He is a director of the waste management SAMCO Ltd, and he's and the Padang Tech Eco Co Ltd, leading the waste management company in Asia, and also subsidiary of Dowa Ecosystem Ltd Japan. He received a degree from chemical engineering from the Konkan University and on environmental engineering from Chiang Mai University of Thailand. He obtained a PhD in environmental engineering from Department of Waste Management and Circular Economy. So I think he have a quite extensive experience in the waste management with the innovative technology and chemistry sort of engineering. With that, I think we are privileged to have him today to share the experience about this subject, and also he can bring us about the number of approach that to have in terms of planning. I mean, including the life cycle assessment and the cost benefit, how to make it more effective, and so on. So with that, I think we would like to invite a professor to join us and share your view how the waste management can be improved in our region, and particularly learning from the Lamdong province, and as well, you know, how we can support and from the technical standpoint and from the innovative solution. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Wong Sok. Yes, it's great opportunity to be invited to this event. Thank you for organizers and moderators. From my point of view, in terms of waste management innovation, currently, I think the trend of waste management clearly specify the role of producers. I mean, producers mean the manufacturer who produce the product before using in the societies, and later on it's become waste. In that sense, the concept of waste management already go far beyond treatment and disposal system. And as I have seen the presentation at the beginning of this stage, I think if we would like to, increase the recycling ratio, increase the collection rate, we have to implement the concept, which is not new, but it has been implemented in Europe for, I think, more than 15 to 20 years. which is the EPR system, Extended Producer Responsibility System. In that sense, you can increase the percentage of recycling rate or try to enhance the collection or even encourage the people to involve in the recycling scheme, because the EPR system will take into account the collection of the waste to the hand of producers. I think this one will be the next stage of Southeast ASEAN or South Asian countries or other developing countries to think about and try to implement this. So I think this is for me so far. Turn back to Dr. Wongsak.
Thank you very much for your sharing this matter. I think we have a very important input about this, how we can accelerate further our solid waste management. And as the interest of time, may I invite the next speaker to share the view on this sort of solid waste management from the local or from their experience. And with that, may I invite Mr. Mr. Latin Luang to share the view and experience and on the how this sort of solid waste management could be improved in terms of existing solid waste management system in the poor and vulnerable community. I mean, some of the community, it's really still not work well with that solid waste management, that they create waste leakages and also a problem at the end of at the receptor as a river and the coastal area as well. With that, if you can have any sort of experience and sharing about how we can address the issue at the community level where it's not really well managed, this solid waste in terms of poor and vulnerable, a group. So the floor is yours, Mr.
Thank you for your question. Actually, this issue is also a big challenge in Dallas City. So in that kind of people, I mean the poor and the vulnerable people, actually currently we do as the same thing as we do with the normal ones. So in the next few years, we will try to give them the livelihood. So we will try to allow them to keep and sell the recyclable waste that have from waste classification to earn money. And also talking about the poor and the vulnerable sections, we also concerned about the workers that work in the solid waste collection and transportation company and the solid waste treatment company. They have to fully implementation the measure on occupational safety for the workers. So that's all. Back to Dr. Wongshop, please.
Thank you very much. I think we receive all this sort of input. I mean, from the speaker. Right now, I just would like to open for the audience question. I mean, I think I better give some more question to the audience. So, is there any question from the audience so far to the panelists, to the expert? And if none, I may ask one question first to entertain the to make our session more interactive. And may I ask one of the questions that we learned from the challenge right now that we are facing with the COVID-19 situation, the outbreak. I mean, the increased amount of the healthcare waste, it's huge. And what are the sustainable and environmental sound way to dispose them, because some of the things it just it's on the street, on the river, everywhere, and the protecting is not only the face mask but face shield and many other things. I mean, this open question to the panelists, and so if you have any thought how we can dispose this in better way, a safe and environmental manner. So who would like to take the floor first?
I
Okay,
can go.
go. Oh, sure. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wong Hock. I'd like to answer this question because I've just completed a chapter on clinical waste management, particularly COVID waste and so on. From the Malaysian experience, we had an increase in the healthcare waste as much as 110% after the COVID. That means the COVID has caused a big jump in the waste clinical waste generated. And it has caused two different problems. One issue is that the quantity and the wastes are actually overflowing, and it has to be collected more frequently and taken to the treatment facilities. And of course, the best option is incineration. But in some cases, what has happened is that one of the innovation is that the saline bottles and all these plastic containers could be sterilized, and then it could be shredded and remold into other plastic utensils. It's possible, it has been done. So this is one option to reduce the COVID waste, particularly the recyclable materials which are not actually infected with the virus. One more issue with this is that the household hazardous waste or household clinical waste. What is happening is that people are discarding the mask randomly all along the roads, and if not, they are discarding the waste together with the municipal solid waste. And this is of concern because the municipal solid waste ends up in the landfill or dump sites with all the masks there. And we are actually asking for unnecessary contamination of the virus in the landfill, and it is a serious hazard to the workers. So it can be managed sustainably if the facilities are there. Like, for example, if the country has got sufficient incineration plant, that will be a good option. But in other cases, of course, they could be looking at autoclaving and sterilization before disposal. But I am aware that in some ASEAN countries, the waste is too much to be managed, and sorry, and that is causing a real concern to the environment. Okay, so these are my comments for the COVID waste.
Thank you very much, Professor. Anyone would like to join? Okay, Swati, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Wongsup, for that question. I think my inputs is that, the pandemic past 2 years and as we are living through it has unfolded the bigger challenges in our cities. One being which also was previously highlighted, that our cities are not built to incentivize segregation at source. And considering COVID exposed, a lot of those gaps. One being that household level segregation is quite lax. It's not monitored well, enforced well, and overall, the presence of systems in cities to support segregation is lacking. Not just Southeast Asia or Vietnam, but I'm sure even India. So I think one bigger challenge to mitigate is that strengthen segregation at source and across all levels, to ensure that biomedical waste could be handled well. In India also, we saw that from the usual biomedical waste generation, the pandemic led to an increase in daily quantums of waste to about 110 TPD. And of course, I think to some sense in major metropolitan areas and across cities, we were able to manage it well because there are systems set up, one being effective collection, separate collection for handling biomedical waste, and then further taking it to common biomedical treatment facilities. So I think having those appropriate systems to channelize hazardous waste and highly contagious waste is imperative, but also educating, all the stakeholders involved. And I come back to awareness again is again imperative, which means all the frontline workers, which are at the forefront of it, the sanitation workers, the operators, the handlers and transporters. So I think that really played an important role in most of our cities here in India. And I'm sure in times to come that does sets the stage. Not just awareness raising, but also enforcing and ensuring that awareness leads to behavior change. So I think one is that, capacitating stakeholders, having appropriate policies and guidelines in place for safe handling of biomedical waste. And third, also to set up infrastructure to support it, but also ensuring that it supports end-to-end segregation, like at nowhere down the lane it gets mixed. And I'm sure, like we all know, that with most of our cities, biomedical waste gets mixed with municipal solid waste, which is a bigger challenge to deal with, especially for the frontline workers that are exposed to it, who are handling it, in a daily basis. So yeah, over to you with that.
Thank you very much. Now I see thank you very much for sharing, and so good. I think it's for the audience to take note. I mean, anyone want to share before I pick up? I mean, they have two questions from the audience right now. Interesting question. One other question to Swati about, can you elaborate more how to tackle the problem of making the bottom-up approach to be more apparent and when we look into the circular economy?
All right. Thanks for that question, Renee. I think there are multifold approaches that could be taken into account when we look into bottom-up approaches. And by bottom-up here, I want to emphasize on informal sector. With most of our cities, informalities are quite high, almost 2% of the urban population. I think one of the approach could be at policy level, where you have municipal bylaws that integrate and ensure the rights of informal sector. It could be incentivizing them on dry waste and sort of mentioning that as a clause. So one is having proactive policies in place that push towards circular economy, integrating both top-down and bottom-up approaches, and this by which I mean at city level, and also having a state level strategy or action plan, and also central level. Second is the implementation stage, where of course there are various approaches explored. One is, which has really worked well in most of our cities, is either formalizing these informal groups into self-help groups or cooperative societies, where they have their formal rights, for instance, health cards, and having bank accounts in place, and their health, safety, and other personal needs are taken care of. And also they are incentivized for the work that they do, which normally is not the case. What COVID-19 also exposed is that most of the informal operations across cities were shut down, which majorly impacted this sector. So if you have that social security in place, I think this sector is usually benefited. Second is also in upscaling and capacitating them into local entrepreneurs. So, for instance, if in your city informal sector operates like, there are waste pickers, and from there it goes to various small scale, medium or itinerant buyers, and then to apex traders, probably you can strengthen these local waste pickers and small and itinerant buyers into local entrepreneurs by training them, by capacitating them, by also building in aspects of social innovation in place. And of course, there are various models with which it could be done. So in India, we have a few cities in Pune, We have a lot of local entrepreneurship models that are coming in that support informal economies. So I think at policy level and at implementation level, if we sort of work, and then of course keep the focus on capacitating and awareness, this could work in the broader scope of circular economy. Also, we do have to understand that informalities and frugal innovation is critical in our cities and our countries. And we really can't talk about circular economy without addressing, informal sector and without involving or incorporating them. Um, Thanks. Over to you, Wangso.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive response to this question, starting from policy up to the implementation. I received another important, interesting question to Gupta. It's about the community participation for long-term sustainability of project. I think the question may be from Vietnam. They say, where can I find more information on Vietnam project? You have any information on this?
Yes, I have two information actually to share here. The community-based solid waste management projects are, you can, mostly I have it in Indonesia. You can search our website borda.org, borda.org, and you look in Indonesia, there is this one component for community-based solid waste management. What is interesting is that more or less like similar like the one in Dalat, what we introduce in communities in Indonesia is a material recovery facilities to, yeah, recover organic waste and also recyclable, so that the communities can sell it to other vendors so they can get income. And another one is also voluntary emission reduction. And I think for one MRF, material recovery facilities, we reduce about 50 to 300 ton carbon dioxide equivalent per year, which you can monetize as well to support the programs. You can learn more from our website, borda.org. But the one from Vietnam is actually a good example of public-private collaboration. This is I found out I don't have online information because that time I was there for a study. This is located in Panrang Tak Cham city, which is in Ninh Thuận province. So the company there, which is called Nam Teng, Nam Teng is got a contract from the province or the city, if I'm not mistaken, uh, to collect all the waste from specific locations. So they have to transfer that to their facilities, which is also, I think, there is a deal in the contract that the government provides about 50 acres of area for Namtang to operate. And this is where the location for plastic recovery and then organic treatment, so that they can recover materials from that. What's interesting is that the company, I think they receive about 50 billion Vietnam dong per year contract, which is about almost maybe around 2 million US dollars. And from this plastic recovery and organic treatment, they receive income annually about 2 to 3 billion Vietnam dong, which is around 130,000 US dollar for selling plastic only annually. So this is a good example for public-private um, collaboration, which is located in Panrang Tak Chang, the province of Ninh Thuận. The company name is Nam Teng. I have the contact of Nam Teng, but I'm not here at the moment. But you can contact me or email me if you need further details on that. Thank you, Dr. Fongso.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for your sharing experience, and that is the important info for the collect from Vietnam to learn and also to grab this. Is maybe an opportunity to advance or accelerate further for this sort of sustainability agenda. I received also another interesting question, which is more about the technology thing, but that's it's good to share. I think the question to Dr. Punsak, could you give us more insight on the EPO? Is this legislation in European country or any are any country in ASEAN which have this policy. I think this from technical technology standpoint, the EPO, and also from the policy, is there any in ASEAN region you could highlight? The floor to you.
Thank you, Dr. Wong Sok. Thank you for these questions. Indeed, this EPR system has been introduced and regulated in the European Union decrees on the waste management. In that sense, if the nation in EU have to introduce the EPR concept into their own regulation and start to encourage the producer to get involved in their own waste management. In terms of ASEAN, as I heard, Singapore already start the EPR through the e-waste management, which has been introduced the beginning of this year, that provide the e-waste tenders to one company to collect the e-waste from household. And for Thailand, I already start to introduce the EPR and provide some knowledge sharing to not only the governmental agency but also the producer, especially in the e-waste home appliance producer. I think in in order to overcome the barrier on the EPR system, we have to understand the market, understand the level of knowledge of the governmental agencies, as well as we have to ensure that the producers understand this concept. I spent 3 years to sharing this concept to them. Um, from my point of view, currently the producer already understand, and they already overcome the barrier. For example, they have the question in mind that the EPR system, if the government introduce this, who will be the owner of the waste? Who will be the person to pay all the cost? Initially, they thought that producer has to manage everything, including the cost, every cost, including collection, including anything. But in fact, the regulator has to get involved in order to ensure that all stakeholders understand and have the regulation be ready to implement such the system. Otherwise, the system cannot run by itself without regulation. It's not like in the European countries, for example, in Germany, that the private sector set up their own association and run their packaging waste by themselves. The reason, I think everyone know that there are many obstacles on these issues. In that sense, all stakeholders has to be involved. From my experience, it take time.
Thank you very much.
You.
Due to the time limits, may I interrupt you? I think that is a lot of insight areas about the key actor that need to be part of solution. I mean, we have a number of questions. I think it's about the way to handle this sort of waste management, including the integrated informal service provider into the waste management system. But I mean, due to the time limit, I think, or anyone want to share quick about how we can integrate the informal service provider into the waste management system before I can wrap up and conclude our session? Maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Any view on this integrated system?
Um, I think I'll just take a minute or less time. One, of course, would be identifying and listing informal workers in your city. So a lot of ground surveys need to be done initially to rope in informal sector. Second is, of course, there is an initial hindrance for them to join or even involve and accept skill building exercise because of the years of conditioning that they come with. So, of course, skill building and training really helps. So here, the support of a lot of local groups and voluntary organizations and community-based organization helps, which means rope in all these local agencies to integrate and train stakeholders. And then, of course, give them the right on dry recyclable waste. One challenge is often in our cities is that while we are setting up systems and infrastructure, we're also creating a tunnel approach, which sort of makes informal sector quite insecure, about their rights and on the dry recyclable waste. So as I said, also making some policy level changes in city bylaws so that their share, from dry waste is not taken away, and integrating them with all these local infrastructure centers that cities plan to build up. Could be material recycling or recovery facilities, or could be zero waste facilities. Over to you, Mongsok.
Thank you very much, and may I say congratulate to all the speaker and the province of Lamdong for sharing experience, and thanks so much for your time, and in particularly thank to all the audience and participant, and particularly for the question. This is very important to enrich knowledge information about this sort of solid waste management in our knowledge and information. With that, I just would like to wrap up quick. I think it's the most important, as you have learned already. I mean, the key issue on the solid waste management, it's about the leakages and also about the capacity to respond to the increased day to day of the solid waste in our city and the region and so on. So with that, we need to get all the key actors to be part of solution. And we need the way of proactive thinking, the circular economy, the linear sort of approach may not be business as usual anymore. So we need to change the way our business doing. And we need also to look at the bottom-up approach, and especially the 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 bottom-up approach, and also the engagement with all the kind of actor, private sector as well as part of the solution, and a comprehensive sort of reflect about the coherent policy and strategy, not only just for the government sector, but the policy can be enabling the condition for all the actors to take part in this shared solution. Last, but it's really important, the technology right now is quite advanced here and there, but it is a matter whether we are ready to pick up and grab this sort of opportunity to further make use for not only segregation, waste management, but also to provide important solution for safety, and particularly during this COVID-19, where we can make this well treated and managed in order to ensure that there's the way it's not an issue, and also with that technology, and we believe this can also help us. With that, I mean, along the technology, the digital sort of information that could help also to accelerate our planning, our investment, and also participation of all the key players. With that, I think I would like to thank you all, and I would like to end our session. And thank you very much once again, and have a great day to everyone.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pham.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you for your sharing information, and bye bye.